top law school graduate, failed her first law firm interview and was dismissed. The interviewer noticed whiteout stains on her white shirt. Her shoes and socks were dirty. More importantly, she was late for the interview. After rushing in, she started adjusting her clothes in front of the interviewer. The high-achieving student was named Hyo-min. She hurriedly took the subway early in the morning for her interview at Yullim Law Firm. A passenger left a book on the seat next to her. She picked it up and got engrossed, causing her to be late. After apologizing, she barged into the interview room, but as soon as she sat down, she was dismissed by litigation team head Seok-hoon. Seok-hoon stated that lawyers bill by the hour. He could not tolerate tardiness. Hyo-min refused to accept rejection. She said she would wait outside. If the interviewers changed their minds, they could call her any time. A lawyer recognized Hyo-min as the champion of the 12th National Law School Moot Court competition. Seok-hoon was also present at that competition. Hyo-min delivered an outstanding performance, speaking confidently and logically on stage. The firm had already offered her a position then, but Hyo-min chose their competitor's law firm instead, though no one knew why she didn't join them, and instead came for an interview at their firm. The interviewer decided to give her another chance. Hyo-min and 3 others faced the interviewer's questions. The first question was, a man was hit by a car while crossing the street. His arm was severed and fell onto the road. A passerby picked up the arm and ran off. The man sued for the return of his arm. How would the court rule? The other 3 believed the plaintiff would win. Their reasoning, the plaintiff was the arm's owner. Hyo-min disagreed. She argued the plaintiff's claim might be rejected because it couldn't be proven the plaintiff owned the arm. The plaintiff would need another legal basis to get it back. The next question was about a train driver's choice to run over a technician to save 100 passengers. A speeding train suddenly encountered a massive boulder ahead. If it continued straight, 100 passengers would die. If it turned right, the technician would be crushed. After weighing the options, the driver chose to turn right. Does this constitute murder? The other 3 all agreed it wasn't murder, because turning right saved more lives. Hyo-min disagreed again. She argued that deliberately switching the track was intentional. Choosing to turn right despite knowing it would kill the technician met the criteria for murder. But morally, the driver wasn't wrong. Moral and legal standards don't always align. This is a challenge legal professionals always face. Hyo-min's answer impressed the interviewers. She passed the interview and became the firm's junior lawyer. During the onboarding meeting, each department competed to recruit new hires. They boasted about salaries, bonuses, and benefits. Only Seok-hoon from the litigation team broke the mood. He said there was no work-life balance in his team. First-year lawyers there only worked early mornings to late nights. Performance bonuses were rarely paid on time. After the presentation, new hires chose their preferred teams. All teams were full except litigation. Yet, Hyo-min confidently chose litigation in front of everyone. Team leaders from other departments envied Hyo-min joining litigation, but Seok-hoon refused to take her. He believed her first choice was another firm. She only applied to theirs after being rejected elsewhere. Also during the interview, her phone screen was cracked, her shirt collar was stained, and her shoes were worn. These details showed she didn't care about her appearance. She couldn't be a proper elite lawyer. Hyo-min defended herself. She explained why she wanted to be a lawyer. Love comes in many forms in this world, but love can also hurt. When pain becomes unbearable, people turn to the law. They sue to protect their happiness, to fight for their right to pursue happiness. She wanted to represent such people. Hyo-min's answer earned Seok-hoon's respect. She secured her place in the litigation team. The assistant assigned tasks to the 4 new hires. First, Hyo-min from the litigation team was sent to observe the Gangdong City gas consultation case. She could request a car. A luxury vehicle with a dedicated driver would take her there. The backup choice, those who had litigation as their second preference, were sent elsewhere. They had to take public transportation. The 2 last-minute additions to the litigation team, 1 man and 1 woman, had to walk to a rural construction site for an investigation. When Seok-hoon reviewed their reports, he found some confusing legal terms, others riddled with typos. Only Hyo-min's report was flawless. Hyo-min didn't let it go to her head. After work, she stayed up late organizing materials for her gas consultation case. The next day, she attended the gas company's shareholder meeting. There, she uncovered irregularities. For the past 7 years, only Hot Spring Village's revenue had plummeted. What was the reason? The company dismissed her, thinking she was just a procedural lawyer with no right to details. They refused to answer her questions. Undeterred, Kang Hyo-min took a car to Hot Spring Village to investigate. Because of her unauthorized investigation, she was marked absent twice without notice. As soon as she arrived at the office, the assistant dragged her to Seok-hoon to apologize. She was told to say nothing, just apologize sincerely. But Seok-hoon wouldn't listen. He accused her of being undisciplined and immediately fired her. Kang Hyo-min fought back. Seok-hoon is the one who acts on his own. We're lawyers, at least give me a chance to defend myself before deciding. He gave her 2 minutes. Kang Hyo-min presented her findings. For 7 years, Hot Spring Village's gas fees had dropped sharply. Yet bathhouses, the biggest gas consumers, should have had higher bills, not lower. Her field investigation revealed the bathhouses operated 24/7. Such a drop in gas fees meant someone had falsified the data. Seok-hoon admired her initiative, but warned her. This wouldn't excuse her unexcused absences and tardiness. If she took matters into her own hands again, she'd face consequences. The trial began soon after. As the gas company's lawyer, Kang Hyo-min walked into the courtroom carrying 2 files. The prosecutor argued that the defendants had removed the original pipes between the gas mains and meters. They had installed homemade copper pipes to illegally siphon city gas. The judge stated that without proof of the stolen gas volume, the trial couldn't proceed. Kang Hyo-min said she could calculate the amount. She pulled out her files and explained she had visited every bathhouse. She reviewed audit reports and calculated the stolen gas over 7 years, along with its estimated market value. With Kang Hyo-min's evidence, the trial resumed. The prosecutor reported total losses at around 3.8 billion won. Due to the large sum, they requested a heavier sentence for the defendants. The defendants immediately protested. They claimed they were small businesses just trying to save on gas bills. They even argued that a gas monopoly with elite lawyers was unfairly targeting powerless merchants. Kang Hyo-min stood up. She pointed out that the gas company was made up of ordinary citizens. Meter readers braved extreme weather to check usage. Engineers endured boiler room heat to keep systems running. Yet the company's losses would ultimately be passed on to honest, hard-working merchants. They were the ones who truly needed legal protection. Kang Hyo-min's words crushed the defendants' excuses. After the trial, gas company executives rushed to hire Kang Hyo-min as their lawyer. Seeing Kang Hyo-min surrounded by clients, Seok-hoon couldn't help but smile. After work, Kang Hyo-min went for dinner with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend expressed regret that she hadn't joined his first-choice law firm. To spend more time together, he suggested they move in. Kang Hyo-min declined, wanting to prioritize her career. After the meal, her boyfriend ran into an acquaintance, a fellow lawyer. He introduced Kang Hyo-min as his fiancée, mentioning her father was a judge and her mother a law professor. Pleased by the lawyer's praise, her boyfriend smiled. But Kang Hyo-min felt she was being used as a trophy. She asked what he loved about her. He dismissed her romantic notions, saying marriage couldn't rely only on feelings. Her family background and excellent genes were part of why he loved her. He wanted to pass on his genes, have a proud wife, and raise their children in privilege. Kang Hyo-min took note of his words and planned to talk to him properly later. A man diagnosed with testicular cancer had sperm frozen before surgery. But poor hospital storage destroyed it, ruining his chance to father a child. In rage, he smashed medical equipment worth 400 million won. Seok-hoon, representing defendant Mr. Park, came to discuss the case. Mr. Park had lost hope in lawyers who only cared about fees. He assumed Seok-hoon was just going through the motions. Seok-hoon admitted the case was unlikely to win conventionally. But he wasn't bound by rigid legal approaches. He'd find a way outside the courtroom. This gave Mr. Park new hope. He revealed his cancer diagnosis and how the hospital's negligence destroyed his sperm. The hospital at fault had dismissed his suffering and even sued him for damages. After learning the full story, Seok-hoon led Kang Hyo-min and others to negotiate with the hospital's lawyers. Coincidentally, the hospital's lawyer happened to be Kang Hyo-min's boyfriend. The boyfriend immediately accused Mr. Park of destroying property and obstruction of business. If the case went to trial, the compensation would double. Mr. Park could even be detained immediately. Out of special consideration, the hospital was willing to show mercy. They only demanded 400 million won for the damaged property if they reached a settlement. Seok-hoon countered. The defendant, Mr. Park, was demanding 500 million won from the hospital for destroying his sperm. After deducting the 400 million won for damages, the hospital should pay Mr. Park an extra 100 million won. Hearing this, the boyfriend declared the negotiation failed. They would meet in court. Kang Hyo-min realized Yoon Seok-hoon had just been bluffing. He admitted it. Negotiations weren't about legal theory, they were about leverage. Now they needed a game-changing move to force the hospital to settle. He assigned the task to Kang Hyo-min and the transferred new hire. They were to talk to Mr. Park and find more bargaining chips. Mr. Park said the case involved sensitive topics. He felt uncomfortable with a female lawyer present. Kang Hyo-min immediately offered to wait outside while the new hire spoke to him. Yoon Seok-hoon sighed. Mr. Park sees you as a woman, not a lawyer. If you can't even stand up for yourself, how can you protect clients? Kang Hyo-min angrily waved her hands in the air. The new lawyer spent 2 hours talking with Mr. Park. Then they gave Kang Hyo-min the recording. Kang Hyo-min listened repeatedly. She noticed Mr. Park mentioned the word monster in the recording. She went to see Mr. Park. Seeing he was still uncomfortable, she said, "Even in school, we practice medical terms. Words others avoid are just normal terms for us." Her words eased Mr. Park's worries. Their talk went smoothly. Afterward, Kang Hyo-min excitedly told Yoon Seok-hoon, "We found our game changer." The trial started soon. In court, Yoon Seok-hoon insisted on demanding 500 million won. The judge called it an outrageous sum. He asked Yoon Seok-hoon to explain. Yoon Seok-hoon handed the floor to Mr. Park. He guided Mr. Park to tell his story. Mr. Park stood up and looked toward the entrance. Everyone followed his gaze. A woman with half her face burned entered. Mr. Park introduced her as his wife. They had been in love and decided to marry. But right after his proposal, she was in a car explosion. Half her face was disfigured. The tragedy destroyed her. After her release, she avoided him. But he loved her deeply. He kept appearing before her, reaffirming his love. He wanted to hold their wedding as planned. Touched by his persistence, she finally agreed. But when trying on the wedding dress, she collapsed again. Seeing herself in the mirror, she ran away. The turning point came when she saw her sister's baby. The soft, sweet infant renewed her desire for life. She wanted a child to inherit her healthy appearance. They finally married. Unfortunately, Mr. Park was diagnosed with testicular cancer while trying to conceive. Surgery could cure him but rob him of fatherhood. To fulfill their dream, they froze his sperm before the operation. Mr. Park repeatedly told the hospital, "This was our last hope, it must be kept safe." The hospital had assured them with absolute confidence. They claimed their advanced equipment would ensure perfect safety. Yet to their horror, the hospital still failed to preserve the sperm. The couple couldn't accept this cruel reality. Furious, they confronted the hospital. The head administrator showed no empathy. She even smirked, suggesting they freeze more sperm at the hospital's expense. Her smile was particularly offensive. When the man refused to back down, she turned serious and dismissed them. The wife stopped Mr. Park from acting violently. But as they left, they overheard the administrator and receptionist whispering, calling the wife a monster and her future child the same. Mr. Park finally snapped and smashed hospital equipment. Devastated, the wife shut herself away, refusing to face anyone. It wasn't until Yoon Seok-hoon visited their home and encouraged her to stand up with Mr. Park for justice that she found courage. "What you should be ashamed of," he said, "is not your appearance, but how you shrink from others' stares and insults. Their words mean nothing." Empowered, the wife finally stepped into court to speak for herself. Mr. Park finished recounting everything. Yoon Seok-hoon took over. The hospital didn't just destroy sperm. They shattered the couple's hopes for a future and their right to parenthood. Even 1 billion won in compensation couldn't fix that. Yoon Seok-hoon's powerful arguments made the hospital and her boyfriend uneasy. Seeing reporters taking notes, the hospital feared bad press. They ordered her boyfriend to drop the case. The boyfriend requested a court recess. He then approached Yoon Seok-hoon to settle. Yoon Seok-hoon proposed an offset. The hospital pay Mr. Park 100 million won. When the boyfriend objected, Yoon reminded him of the hospital's multi-billion-dollar investment projects. A single scandal could ruin everything. The reporters he brought could publish any time. The hospital should know what mattered most. After weighing the risks, the boyfriend agreed. He demanded no media coverage and that Mr. Park discuss the case with no one. In exchange, the hospital would drop all civil and criminal charges. After sealing the deal, Yoon told Mr. Park and his wife about the 100 million won compensation. The couple cried with joy, grateful to Yoon and his team. Mr. Park's love moved Kang Hyo-min, but her own heart was in turmoil. Her boyfriend proposed with a ring. She didn't want lies in their relationship. She revealed she wasn't an only child. She had a twin sister with hereditary hearing loss. Her aunt and uncle were also deaf. Her parents believed her sister would fare better with her aunt than in a hearing world, so they sent her away at 5. Her family wasn't perfect, as her boyfriend thought. He couldn't accept imperfection in his ideal image. Worried the deafness gene might affect their future children, he took back the ring and left, claiming he needed time to think. Days later, Kang learned from a friend that her boyfriend was dating. She rushed to the restaurant and signed, "He's a jerk." That night, heartbroken, Kang worked late alone. Yoon happened to be there too. She asked him what he thought of Mr. Park and his wife's love. Yoon replied, "I'd stay by Mr. Park's side too. Anyone who abandons their loved ones in trouble isn't just unloving, they're heartless." Before leaving, Yoon praised Kang without restraint. "You handled Mr. Park's case very well." The delivery guy just drank half a cup of coffee his coworker handed to him and immediately felt drowsy. When he regained focus, a little boy suddenly dashed out in front of him. Fortunately, he slammed on the brakes and avoided hitting the boy. Strangely, though there was no collision, the boy became paralyzed from the waist down. The boy's mother, seeing her son in danger, screamed hysterically while clutching him. When the police arrived, they conducted a drunk driving test. The delivery guy tested positive for alcohol and was arrested for suspected drunk driving. The mother took her son to the hospital for an examination. The results showed only minor scrapes on his knees, no signs of impact. The doctor confirmed the boy had not been hit by the car, but his legs were immobile due to a functional disorder in part of his spinal nerve circuits, an internal injury typically caused by external impact. Then, the mother received a call from the police. After reviewing surveillance footage from the scene, the police confirmed the delivery guy's car had not struck the boy. Despite the evidence, the mother still blamed the delivery guy for her son's condition. She filed a lawsuit against him, vowing to send him to prison and bankrupt the delivery company. Yoon Seok-hoon's team, acting as the delivery guy's defense lawyers, immediately obtained the doctor's report. The injuries matched collision trauma, yet no collision had occurred. Yoon Seok-hoon found this suspicious. He sent Kang Hyo-min to consult a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist explained that the boy had mistakenly believed he'd been hit by the car. This false perception triggered his physical symptoms. In psychological terms, this was the nocebo effect, where fear or belief causes real, negative physical reactions. A similar case occurred in 1950. A crewman was trapped in a cruise ship's freezer, where he eventually froze to death. Before dying, he carved notes on the wall describing how the cold first numbed his nose, then his fingers and toes, until he could no longer feel the cold. Shockingly, the freezer had been emptied of alcohol and left closed. The temperature inside was actually 18 degrees Celsius, far too warm to cause death. In reality, the crewman's belief, not the cold, had killed him. After hearing the psychiatrist's explanation, Yoon Seok-hoon instructed Kang Hyo-min to interview witnesses. Other parents confirmed the car had stopped just before hitting the boy, who then collapsed as if injured. The mother's hysterical reaction made it seem like the boy had been killed. Kang Hyo-min and Yoon Seok-hoon concluded the mother's overreaction had misled the boy into believing he'd been hit, causing his psychological and physical reactions. During the lawyers' meeting, the mother's attorney turned out to be Kang Hyo-min's ex-boyfriend. He acted dishonestly, telling Yoon Seok-hoon and Kang Hyo-min to meet at 2:30 p.m., but secretly meeting the delivery guy at 2 p.m. to pressure him into confessing. The mother demanded 200 million won in compensation and refused to settle the drunk driving charge. The ex-boyfriend continued pressuring the delivery guy, who insisted he'd only drunk half a cup of coffee and didn't know it contained alcohol. No matter what he said, the mother insisted he'd crippled her son, even telling him, "If you want forgiveness, Cripple your own child and bring them here. The delivery guy couldn't afford 200 million won. At his manager's suggestion, he knelt and begged the mother for mercy. Yoon Seok-hoon arrived, pulled him up, and sharply countered that the ex-boyfriend's evidence failed to prove guilt. The ex-boyfriend argued that the child's sudden paralysis after the incident proved psychological trauma, regardless of collision. Yoon Seok-hoon responded, "Then provide the evidence." The ex-boyfriend had no reply. At the first trial, the ex-boyfriend accused the delivery guy of drunk driving under heavy workload, causing the non-contact accident. He demanded 200 million won in damages. Kang Hyo-min stood to defend, claiming the boy's paralysis resulted from his mother's overreaction and requested a mental evaluation for the child. After the trial, Yoon Seok-hoon sent Kang Hyo-min to check the boy's medical records. Kang Hyo-min discovered the boy visited the hospital 5 to 6 times a week, but had no prescription records. The boy's doctor refused to meet her. Luckily, Kang Hyo-min's friend was a doctor at the same hospital. He suggested this might be Munchausen syndrome or illness anxiety disorder. Munchausen syndrome involves faking illness for attention, while illness anxiety disorder is excessive health-related fear. Kang Hyo-min reported her findings to Yoon Seok-hoon, who used them as strong evidence. At the third trial, Yoon Seok-hoon called a psychiatrist to testify. The psychiatrist diagnosed a strong psychological dependence between the boy and his mother, meaning the boy couldn't think independently and followed her lead. Yoon Seok-hoon played footage of the mother's reaction at the scene. The psychiatrist confirmed her overreaction likely made the boy believe he'd been hit, creating a psychological trigger for his paralysis. The psychiatrist also tested the boy by asking him to pick the longest line on paper. At first, he chose correctly, but when the mother deliberately picked a wrong answer, the boy immediately changed his choice. This proved the boy could think rationally, but relied too heavily on his mother's judgment. Yoon Seok-hoon questioned the mother, revealing deeper family issues. After giving birth, she quit her job to become a full-time mom. She isolated herself from family and friends, with her husband working abroad. The boy became her entire world. Shockingly, the 5-year-old was still breastfeeding and had attended kindergarten for only a few days before the mother claimed he didn't fit in and pulled him out. The mother claimed she did it out of love, wanting to protect her child from harm. Yoon Seok-hoon accused her of using the boy to fill her emotional void, masking her obsession under the guise of love. He warned that without changing their dynamic, the boy could remain disabled for life under this unhealthy relationship. Stung, the mother broke down and began reflecting on her behavior. Kang Hyo-min thought Yoon Seok-hoon's words were too harsh. She believed the mother truly loved her son. But Yoon Seok-hoon insisted only the brutal truth could wake her up. Not all mothers are selfless. Some don't want to be mothers, while others shouldn't be. These words reminded Kang Hyo-min of her own mother, a perfectionist who had sent her disabled sister to live with an aunt. Kang Hyo-min resented her but knew her mother had sacrificed her career to raise her. Yoon Seok-hoon also had painful memories. Once, he found a pregnancy test in the trash after work. When he excitedly asked his wife, she insisted they weren't pregnant. He suspected she had aborted, especially since she'd recently visited her family. She refused to answer, claiming they'd agreed before marriage to remain childless. Heartbroken, Yoon Seok-hoon forced himself to accept her selfish choice, but the pain never faded. Attorney Ko, who regards Yoon Seok-hoon as a rival and constantly clashes with him, is now courting President Choi of the Comma Fund to collaborate with the law firm. President Choi sets a condition. If Yoon Seok-hoon helps him settle a private lawsuit, he will entrust the law firm with the company's special investment case. Though unwilling, Attorney Ko still arranged a meeting between the two. President Choi explains his request. The nanny noticed unusual marks on his daughter's body and suspected mistreatment. After reporting it to the police with no response, she turned to the media to pressure for the child's rescue, but President Choi temporarily suppressed the matter. He worries she might escalate it further and doesn't want a court case damaging his company's reputation. He asks Yoon Seok-hoon to handle it privately, even through legal pressure or legitimate threats. Yoon Seok-hoon inquires if the nanny has evidence. President Choi shows photos of the girl on his phone, claiming the supposed injuries could be faked with makeup. He accuses the nanny of fabricating facts due to her long-term relationship with the child. Yoon Seok-hoon, principled in child-related cases, refuses them all, yet surprisingly accepts this one. His assistant gives Kang Hyo-min the nanny's contact and address to assist with the case. Kang Hyo-min tracks down the nanny, who recounts seeing the girl repeatedly staring blankly out the window, her eyes filled with despair beyond her years. The nanny wanted to install a hidden camera for proof, but couldn't afford it. Kang Hyo-min questions her, noting she lacks direct evidence of President Choi's abuse. The nanny says he never acts badly in her presence, but the girl trembles and turns pale when she sees him. Her terror speaks volumes. Once, the girl hid in a cupboard in distress. The nanny tried to take her to the hospital, but President Choi feared exposure and had a doctor treat the wounds at home. She wasn't allowed to return to daycare until fully healed. Convinced, Kang Hyo-min returns to the office and suggests reporting to the police to save the child. The assistant warns that a lawyer violating confidentiality by reporting a client could face disciplinary action. Kang Hyo-min would rather face punishment than let the child suffer further. Seok-hoon reminds her they're not prosecutors or judges, they should stick to their duties. Disappointed by his stance, Kang Hyo-min is interrupted by attorney Ko, who storms in, furious that a junior lawyer would defy authority. After Kang Hyo-min left, the nanny texted President Choi, saying she had told the lawyer everything. The lawyer promised to save the girl and that President Choi would face severe punishment. She threatened to extort money from him. Attorney Ko concluded the nanny was a ruthless money seeker. The assistant also investigated her background and found records of fraud and theft. While working for President Choi, she had rummaged through wallets, stolen and sold luxury watches, and even tampered with the safe. President Choi fired her for dishonesty, but she retaliated by threatening to report his abuse of the child. Kang Hyo-min reflected on her mistake and apologized to Seok-hoon for acting impulsively. Seok-hoon, however, said the case wasn't settled. Sometimes apparent villains show kindness, while seeming good people do wrong. To investigate, Seok-hoon visited President Choi's home with gifts. President Choi ordered the new nanny to bring out his daughter, who hid behind the nanny, trembling in fear. When Seok-hoon reached to touch her head, the girl immediately raised her hands in a defensive stance. The next day, both sides met for mediation. Seok-hoon pointed out the nanny had been fired for attempting to steal 50 million won in cash from President Choi's home, caught by the police. The nanny claimed it was a setup. After the police refused to handle the case, she tried to flee with the girl but had no money or savings. It was then she noticed the usually locked safe slightly ajar. She took the cash and the girl, only to be stopped by police at the door. She had threatened President Choi for money because he withheld her salary and severance pay. She just wanted what was owed to her. Seok-hoon leveled accusations of false reporting and defamation, which could land her up to 7 years in prison or a 15 million won fine. He also revealed she was paying off her husband's debts, and fines would only worsen her situation. He forced her to sign a pledge promising no further trouble. The nanny pressed her fingerprint in tears. President Choi praised Seok-hoon and decided to hand all his cases to him. Kang Hyo-min, however, remained troubled by Seok-hoon's approach, accusing him of bullying the weak to curry favor with the powerful. She vowed to report President Choi herself. Seok-hoon reminded her they only had photos. President Choi had framed the nanny by bringing a doctor to set her up, proving his cunning. Most of the Kama Fund's money came from the elite. President Choi helped them launder money and make it grow legally. Charging him for child abuse alone wouldn't send him to prison. If they escalated matters, President Choi would take his anger out on his daughter at home. The next day, Kang Hyo-min noticed people entering and leaving Seok-hoon's office. For several days afterward, Seok-hoon didn't come to work. Then President Choi called for help. His daughter had run out of the house while he was away. Someone had reported it, and the police were blocking the front door. Seok-hoon suppressed his anger and demanded to know if President Choi had hurt the child again. President Choi knew Seok-hoon had already uncovered the truth but took the case for the fee, making him believe Seok-hoon would continue covering his crimes for money. The police had left, after failing to get a response at the door. Seok-hoon warned them the police would return the girl was evidence, and they had to destroy it. He had arranged for a doctor, and would return the girl as soon as treatment was done. Impressed by his efficiency, President Choi agreed to let him take the girl. Seok-hoon found the girl hiding in a closet and took her hand to leave. Terrified, the girl ducked behind him, but President Choi grabbed her arm, glaring and demanding she obey Seok-hoon or else. He forced her to reply loudly to his orders. Seok-hoon carried the trembling child to the hospital. Doctors diagnosed mesenteric bleeding and performed emergency surgery. The doctor later said any delay would have been disastrous. The nanny arrived in tears, crying, "I knew this would happen someday." Seok-hoon's rage boiled over, and he stormed out. Kang Hyo-min wondered how the nanny knew. The nanny revealed Seok-hoon had visited her after getting her fingerprint, asking for help and details about President Choi. Alarmed, Kang Hyo-min hailed a taxi and followed. Seok-hoon pressed the doorbell and beat President Choi without warning. A vase shattered in the fight, lacerating Seok-hoon's arm and hand, but he was beyond reason, grabbing a shard to kill President Choi. Kang Hyo-min stopped him just in time. Then President Choi's boss arrived with men. President Choi expected rescue, but the boss ordered him seized. Seok-hoon had spent his absence gathering evidence. He'd discovered President Choi embezzled his boss's money and struck a deal. He'd help recover the funds in exchange for the boss taking action. President Choi was left broken, suffering the same cruelty he'd inflicted on his daughter. As Seok-hoon pursued the stolen money, other investors filed lawsuits. President Choi went bankrupt and was imprisoned for fraud and embezzlement. The girl recovered and was placed in her mother's custody after the parents divorced under the strain. After the case ended, Seok-hoon got a call from the pet hospital his dog was sick. He rushed over, only to find his ex-wife there too. And to his shock, she was pregnant. A wealthy lady boasted to her classmates about spending 300 million won on a famous painting by the internationally renowned artist, Painter Yu. However, a classmate who disliked her immediately video called her mother to show an identical painting hanging in her bedroom. The classmate's painting was bought for 100,000 won at a flea market a year ago. The wealthy lady's painting was labeled as created in September 2024, later than her purchase date. The classmate mocked her for spending 300 million won on a fake. Both insisted their own painting was the genuine one. To uncover the truth, the wealthy lady sued Painter Yu for fraud and copyright infringement, stating she would drop the charges if the court ruled her painting was authentic. Painter Yu felt humiliated, believing someone dared to copy his work and sell it at a flea market for just 100,000 won. He went to a law firm demanding to sue the counterfeiters and ruin them financially. The lawyer handling the case was Kang Hyo-min's ex-boyfriend, who promised to win for Painter Yu. Meanwhile, Kang Hyo-min received a lawsuit from her sister sent by a friend asking for her help. Kang Hyo-min found it was Painter Yu suing Miss Mun for copyright infringement. Since Miss Mun had neither submitted a defense nor appeared in court within 30 days, the court had already set a judgment date for that afternoon. If things continued, Painter Yu would win by default, leaving Miss Mun only with appeals. At her sister's request, Kang Hyo-min rushed to court to request the cancellation of the judgment date. The judge gave her only 1 week. A week later, the trial began. Kang Hyo-min returned to the law firm with the lawsuit, apologizing to Seok-hoon for acting without permission, but insisting she wanted to provide pro bono defense for Miss Mun. Seok-hoon scolded her for causing trouble, and demanded she handle all trial preparations and defense alone. Since Kang Hyo-min had no courtroom experience, the assistants organized mock trials for her to practice. She won the first round but stumbled and lost in the final against her teammate. Afterward, she stayed up late, working overtime to research and write a well-reasoned defense statement with solid arguments. Seeing Seok-hoon hadn't left yet, she ran after him to ask for his opinion. Seok-hoon praised the defense for being clear and well-structured, but demanded she rehearse in front of him before the trial. Kang Hyo-min fumbled through the statement, and Seok-hoon pointed out she sounded like a clumsy liar trying to deceive. In the mock trial, she lost to her teammate because she noticed flaws in Seok-hoon's lawsuit, while her colleague trusted his work blindly and argued confidently. In this case, Painter Yu, a globally renowned artist graduated from a prestigious U.S. university, was pitted against the obscure amateur painter Miss Mun. Kang Hyo-min lacked confidence in Miss Mun, making her defense seem weak. Seok-hoon reminded her to set aside prejudice and focus on the facts. When the trial officially began, Seok-hoon sent one of his juniors as Painter Yu's defense lawyer to confront Kang Hyo-min, believing he could easily win with his support. The plaintiff's lawyer argued first, stating Painter Yu's painting was published in October 2024 and exhibited in November, suspecting Miss Mun had copied it after seeing it in media or at the exhibition. Kang Hyo-min countered that Miss Mun's painting was completed in March 2024 and appeared in the flea market earlier than Painter Yu's creation date. The classmate who bought the painting could testify, but the judge doubted her credibility due to her conflicted relationship with the wealthy lady, ruling her testimony inadmissible. Kang Hyo-min then questioned Painter Yu about his new technique, asking how he started using it. Painter Yu deliberately used obscure technical terms to confuse everyone. When Kang Hyo-min turned to Miss Mun, asking about her consistent painting technique and experience, Miss Mun looked around nervously and simply answered, "I don't know." Painter Yu mocked her loudly, claiming her silence proved guilt. Miss Mun suddenly stood up, begged for everyone's forgiveness, and rushed into her mother's arms. This stunned the courtroom, leaving Seok-hoon and Painter Yu smugly convinced they had won. The judge adjourned for 10 minutes, stating Miss Mun was unable to continue questioning. Kang Hyo-min and Seok-hoon met Miss Mun's mother to ask why Miss Mun behaved that way. They only then learned that Miss Mun had an intellectual disability, physically 21, but mentally 13. Her mother hadn't registered it to avoid her being labeled disabled, and had even represented Miss Mun in previous talks with Kang Hyo-min. When the trial resumed, Kang Hyo-min requested that Miss Mun be excused from questioning due to her condition. But Seok-hoon's team already knew and pressured Miss Mun harshly. In the next session, the judge denied Kang Hyo-min's request for an exclusion. The plaintiff's lawyer attacked Miss Mun, claiming she attended a community art class where students often visited exhibitions and practiced by copying paintings. They presented Miss Mun's past copies, including one of Painter Yu's work. A junior lawyer pressed her. "Did you copy a painting after the exhibition and sell it for 100,000 won at the flea market?" Frightened, Miss Mun only wanted to go home and quickly agreed. Remembering Seok-hoon's advice, "See the truth," Kang Hyo-min requested a recess. During the break, she spoke privately with Miss Mun and patiently guided her to explain her creative process. When the trial resumed, Kang Hyo-min confronted Painter Yu. "What does your painting depict? Are there hidden images?" Painter Yu dismissed it as just a landscape. Kang Hyo-min then turned kindly to Miss Mun, who revealed, "My father's face is in the painting." During their private conversation, Kang Hyo-min learned Miss Mun's story. Miss Mun came from a happy family, but her father left when she was 12. Her mother held a grudge, but Miss Mun couldn't stop missing him. She developed a unique technique to hide her father's portrait in every painting, visible only in the dark with a flashlight. Kang Hyo-min tried it and saw the same face as in Miss Mun's photo. When she shone the light on Painter Yu's painting, the same face appeared. The courtroom erupted in shock. "The evidence is clear." Forced to admit guilt, Painter Yu claimed, "Without me, Miss Mun would be nobody. Her work belongs in flea markets. She should thank me." Kang Hyo-min fired back. "You're the one who disrespects art. Apologize and pay compensation. That's what the law is for." She won a stunning victory. Even Seok-hoon, usually harsh, acknowledged her as Attorney Kang Hyo-min. The title filled her with pride, the highest honor for a lawyer. The boyfriend fell for someone else and unilaterally broke up with her. Furious, the woman decided to sue him. Her lawyer informed her that emotional damage from a breakup couldn't be legally pursued. To everyone's shock, she suddenly tore off her top. The next day, the law firm took on another case. Miss Seol had a severe scar condition. Any wound would spread rapidly and leave permanent scars. For her, minor injuries were catastrophic disasters. Even surgery couldn't remove them. As a model, she lost her job because of these scars. The one who caused the wounds and triggered the scarring was her ex-boyfriend after intimate encounters. Kang Hyo-min briefed Seok-hoon and the team. A colleague argued that if Miss Seol hadn't consented, her ex could be charged with assault. But Kang Hyo-min had already checked. Miss Seol said her ex had her sign consent forms like a routine before each act. A female colleague suggested they could invalidate the consent if she was drunk. Unfortunately, Miss Seol never drank. Seok-hoon insisted that to prove assault, they needed to invalidate the consent, but they had no legal angle. The case was stuck. During the discussion, Kang Hyo-min found a breakthrough. Miss Seol signed the forms while deeply in love, a state of diminished capacity that clouded her judgment. The team laughed, but a male colleague nodded. "I get it. In high school, my girlfriend spat chewed gum into a cup and said, 'Drink it if you want to date me.' I was so obsessed I did it. Now I just feel sick." Seok-hoon agreed to carefully examine Kang Hyo-min's point of view, as there were no other options. Kang Hyo-min mentioned a U.S. case where both parties consented, but the woman later claimed the consent was invalid due to psychological and economic pressure from the man. She then filed a lawsuit for assault. Their goal was to prove that Miss Seol had been psychologically coerced by her ex. Kang Hyo-min explained the love-induced diminished capacity theory to Miss Seol and asked if she had any specific preferences in intimate matters. Miss Seol denied it. At first, she rejected her ex's excessive demands in bed. He broke up with her. Overwhelmed by love, she couldn't bear the separation and called him within a week, begging to reconcile. He refused. She cried for a month, longing for the man who had once been kind to her. The loneliness made it hard to live normally. When he reached out, they got back together instantly. Fearing another breakup, she agreed to his unreasonable demands. Since childhood, Miss Seol knew she had a rare scar condition and had always been cautious, not even sustaining minor scratches. But love made her reckless. The thought of losing him was suffocating, so she willingly took the risk. After work, Kang Hyo-min went to a bar with two friends. A handsome man approached her, offered drinks, suggested sharing a table, and even loosened her hair tie, complimenting her look. Flustered by her first flirtation, she paled upon hearing his name. He was Miss Seol's ex-boyfriend. The next day, Miss Seol's ex-boyfriend arrived at Yullim Law Firm for help. Kang Hyo-min's ex-boyfriend analyzed. Legally, we can win, but the case is sensitive. It could spark public backlash. Miss Seol's ex didn't want personal details becoming gossip and demanded a settlement meeting. Meanwhile, Kang Hyo-min and her colleagues dined out on Yoon Seok-hoon's tab. By the time Yoon arrived, everyone was drunk. He escorted Kang home, handing her a handkerchief when she looked unwell. She sniffed it and gushed like a fangirl. "Your handkerchief smells amazing." The next morning, she cringed at her behavior, blaming alcohol for her loss of control. At the negotiation table, Kang's ex-boyfriend dismissed the love-induced diminished capacity claim as absurd. He suspected Miss Seol was using legal threats. Yoon countered, "One-sided pleasure causing irreversible harm justifies criminal charges and damages." Miss Seol's ex suddenly asked everyone to leave. He wanted to talk to Kang alone. He believed she'd approached him at the bar to extract damaging statements but didn't mind he liked her. Kang denied any intent, but he cut her off. He handed her a blank check. "Write any amount, sign an NDA, and drop this for your sake." He claimed ignorance of her condition, calling their acts normal couples play. But he warned, "If you push further, I have videos proving consent." Kang Hyo-min told Yoon Seok-hoon about the video. Yoon stated, "For Miss Seol, emotional wounds matter more than physical ones." He hired Kang because she once said, "When pain reaches its limit, people turn to the law." They believed lawsuits could protect happiness and the right to pursue it. Miss Seol was using litigation to heal, not just for money. Kang pointed out the one-sided NDA and demanded mutual terms. When Kang asked if Miss Seol had consented to filming, she admitted, "I was too in love to refuse." Kang ensured the new NDA was mutual, preventing leaks. Miss Seol clarified, "I want medical and legal fees, not money. I'm suing to reclaim control." Kang's love-induced diminished capacity line made her realize, "It's not my fault. Anyone in love could have been hurt." With Kang's mediation, both sides signed the mutual NDA. Before leaving, Miss Seol spoke privately with her ex. He expected more accusations, but she said, "I won't paint you as a monster, nor will I deny the happiness we shared. I knew you loved me, and I still believe I'm that captivating." With a confident smile, she walked away. The wife suffering from Alzheimer's could no longer bear the pain and begged her husband to take her to Switzerland for euthanasia. Out of love, the husband agreed to her request. But as soon as he returned with her ashes, he was arrested for assisting her death. Yoon Seok-hoon happened to witness Mr. Hwang's arrest at the airport. He had a connection with the couple. Earlier, Mr. Hwang's wife witnessed a car accident near her home. A middle school student was hit, and the driver fled. She quickly noted the license plate and turned to find her phone to call for help. In her haste, she stepped on broken glass barefoot, which made her forget her purpose due to her Alzheimer's, leaving her sitting motionless at the door. When Mr. Hwang returned home, he first treated his wife's foot wound. It wasn't until the police siren sounded that she suddenly remembered the accident and rushed to the intersection. However, the middle school student had no pulse when placed on the ambulance. The wife was consumed by guilt and regret. To seek justice for the student, she sued the driver with the license plate she remembered. Since there was no surveillance at the accident site, her testimony was the only evidence. To stay sharp and recall more details, she took medication daily to fight her Alzheimer's. Seok-hoon was the defense attorney for the driver at the time. During the trial, he first asked if she remembered his name, and she couldn't answer clearly. Seok-hoon then argued that her severe Alzheimer's cast doubt on the credibility of her testimony. Doctors had previously said that if the student had been sent to the hospital an hour earlier, they might have survived. In her testimony, the plaintiff wrote that the driver was the primary culprit and her illness was the secondary one. Seok-hoon believed the plaintiff was eager to escape the guilt of being the secondary culprit, so she hastily pinned the blame on the primary one. She didn't realize that her obsession and Alzheimer's made her firmly believe the license plate she remembered was correct, when in fact, her memory was wrong. The defendant had nothing to do with the accident. In the end, Seok-hoon won the case, while the defeated plaintiff sank deeper into guilt, and her condition worsened rapidly. The wife, unable to endure the suffering, requested her husband to accompany her to euthanasia. No one expected that after Mr. Hwang returned home with his wife's ashes. His brother-in-law sued him for assisting in suicide. In court, the brother-in-law accused Mr. Hwang of causing his sister immense pain due to his affair. Mr. Hwang had even filed for divorce to be with his lover, but withdrew the request after his wife was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. The brother-in-law believed Mr. Hwang was waiting for his wife to die to inherit her wealth and reunite with his lover, and that he couldn't even wait a few years, forcing his wife's death through euthanasia. Seok-hoon became Mr. Hwang's defense attorney. During the trial, he asked when Mr. Hwang started the affair. Mr. Hwang admitted it was a year before his wife's diagnosis. The day he filed for divorce, he learned about her illness, which made him abandon the plan and focus on caring for her. That night, he researched Alzheimer's symptoms and realized his wife's forgetfulness and outbursts were due to the disease, not neglect. He regretted using loneliness as an excuse for his affair and vowed to stay by her side. Most of the time, his wife's memory remained in their honeymoon phase, which deepened his understanding of love. She once wanted to end her life but feared leaving shadows for her husband and later chose euthanasia in Switzerland, which he respected out of love. The prosecutor dismissed Mr. Hwang's explanation, stating that assisting in euthanasia violated societal norms and demanded a 3-year sentence. Seok-hoon countered that the mental suffering from dementia was as unbearable as physical pain, especially for a respected teacher like his wife. Ignoring such torment would be outdated and unjust. The judge, balancing law and compassion, sentenced Mr. Hwang to 1 year in prison, which he accepted gratefully with Seok-hoon's help. The trial ended, and everyone left, but Seok-hoon couldn't shake off his thoughts. Mr. Hwang's perspective on love reminded him of his past with his ex-wife. A decade ago, when he returned home from work, he found her admirer hugging her at the door. Instead of confronting them, Seok-hoon walked away. He trusted and respected his ex-wife, refusing to blame her for someone else's one-sided feelings, leaving her to handle it herself. Soon after, she filed for divorce, citing boredom in their mundane life. She admitted she had no feelings for the admirer but didn't reject his embrace because, in his eyes, she saw the passion Seok-hoon once had for her. She missed the old him. At the time, Seok-hoon argued that love wasn't just about passion, the stability they built, the closeness of being family, all were love. But she insisted the dullness was draining her life and was determined to leave. After the divorce, Seok-hoon blamed himself, believing it was his fault. Only today did he realize he wasn't wrong. After leaving court, he met his ex-wife and said love came in many colors, shifting over time, and that he had always loved her. She apologized for not understanding love back then and only grasping it after marrying someone new. Seok-hoon felt both anger and sorrow but finally let go. He told her they should never meet again. That night, feeling lonely, he stayed at the law office, where Hyo-min came to submit a report. Seok-hoon poured out his story, mentioning how his sharp words in school had hurt others, making him cautious until he met his ex-wife. Hyo-min comforted him, saying past people would be replaced, time would heal wounds, and the only irreplaceable thing was oneself. Reassured, Seok-hoon regained his strength. But the storm wasn't over. Hyo-min suddenly received a call from her best friend. Her sister, Miss Han, had been arrested for severely beating her husband, leaving him in a coma. Hyo-min learned that Miss Han had taken psychiatric medication and acted violently in an unconscious state. She decided to argue mental incapacity to seek an acquittal. Seok-hoon disagreed, If mental incapacity was proven, the court would have to acquit, but would scrutinize the case more rigorously. He suggested arguing mental weakness for a suspended sentence instead. Kang Hyo-min stuck to her plan. Miss Han was a famous news anchor and the pride of her friend's family. She couldn't let Miss Han bear a criminal record and lose her reputation. Seok-hoon understood her concerns. They first met Miss Han's doctor, who shocked them with a revelation. Miss Han suffered from battered woman syndrome, a psychological breakdown from long-term abuse. The doctor said her husband had mistreated her for a decade, leaving her exhausted, depressed, anxious, and sleepless. He showed them a photo from her first visit, broken ribs that took 7 weeks to heal, which she had hidden, claiming it was from a car accident. Seok-hoon asked if the medication caused temporary unconsciousness. The doctor confirmed it could last 4 to 12 hours. When Kang Hyo-min told Miss Han's sister about the abuse, she collapsed. No one knew the kind sister endured such cruelty, and the seemingly gentle husband was a monster. In fury, the sister rushed to the hospital to attack her unconscious brother-in-law, but was stopped by the doctor's conscience. During the first trial, Seok-hoon argued that Miss Han, after taking psychiatric medication, had no memory of beating her husband, claiming she was in a state of mental incapacity. The prosecution immediately countered, stating that Ms. Han had called her victim's name and cursed during the attack, then dialed emergency services afterward, proving she wasn't entirely unaware, thus falling under mental weakness. Seok-hoon then requested a psychiatric evaluation of Miss Han's drug-induced state, which the judge approved. During the assessment, Miss Han took her usual dose in front of everyone. As the drug took effect, she smashed cups and violently trashed the room, completely out of control. After regaining consciousness, she guiltily asked her sister and Kang Hyo-min if they'd seen her outburst, but then quietly confessed she liked that version of herself. Feeling stronger, like Wonder Woman, she said, normally timid. Miss Han had secretly installed cameras at home to watch her violent episodes, believing she was punishing bad guys like Wonder Woman and rewatching the clips for revenge and thrill. Recently, when her drunken husband attacked her again, Miss Han deliberately took the drug to teach him a lesson, knowing the consequences. Kang Hyo-min realized the severity. Miss Han's actions constituted voluntary intoxication under the law, intentionally inducing a state to commit violence. Even if she argued mental incapacity, the prosecution could use this to rebut, making an acquittal nearly impossible. The best friend suddenly remembered how Kang Hyo-min had learned sign language to communicate with her deaf-mute sister years ago, dragging her along and promising to grant her a wish someday. Now, she demanded Kang Hyo-min fulfill that promise. Her wish was for Miss Han to be acquitted. Torn between friendship and professional ethics, Kang Hyo-min was at a loss. She confided in Seok-hoon, who urged her to broaden her thinking. "For me, justice means protecting those who must be protected," he said. "Don't let dogma trap you." Inspired, Kang Hyo-min instructed Miss Han never to reveal the truth about deliberately taking the drug to attack her husband, not even to doctors or prosecutors. If questioned unfavorably in court, she should exercise her right to remain silent. During the second trial, the expert testified that Miss Han had completely lost her ability to discern right from wrong or make decisions after taking the medication, with no memory of the subsequent 30 minutes. The drug's side effects suppressed her prefrontal cortex, triggering the violent behavior. The doctor even presented a brain scan to support this. The judge, considering all evidence, ruled that Miss Han's mental incapacity defense was valid and acquitted her. Later, the three friends drank together, watching the surveillance footage. In the video, Miss Han's drunk husband came home yelling and shoving her. Unable to take it anymore, she slammed a chair at him, screaming for him to go to hell, retaliating the way he once abused her. They laughed through their tears. Only Miss Han knew this breaking point was built on years of torment. But now, with her abuser in a coma, she had finally broken free. A female doctor was on a flight when someone suddenly collapsed and needed emergency medical assistance. Upholding her duty as a physician, she rushed to help, only to recognize the unconscious man as a heinous rapist. Seeing his face after 10 years, Dr. Choi was instantly transported back to the traumatic memory. Years ago, the police announced the arrest of a rapist. The victim had suffered severe physical and psychological trauma. When Dr. Choi saw the bloodied, barely conscious girl, her fury nearly knocked her off her feet. 5 later, a stabbed patient was rushed to the hospital for emergency care. Dr. Choi immediately identified him as the man who had assaulted the girl. Her mind raced. After forcing herself to calm down, she refused to treat him. Transferring him to another hospital would take 40 minutes. increasing the risk of death. Without thinking, Dr. Choi muttered, "What if he dies?" Her superior reprimanded her harshly. "As doctors, we cannot decide who deserves to live. Our duty is to save lives." Yet Dr. Choi could never forget the victim's agony. "If I save this rapist, there will be more victims." She felt they would be accomplices to evil. Unable to convince her, her superior took over the resuscitation. At that moment, the flight attendant's urgent call snapped Dr. Choi out of her thoughts. Staring at the rapist before her, she wondered what fate had brought her to this crossroads again. Regaining her composure, she fulfilled her duty as a doctor and intervened, but ultimately failed to save him. The rapist's mother and wife later filed a police report, accusing Dr. Choi of intentional homicide. His mother claimed that during his previous hospitalization, Dr. Choi had explicitly wished for his death. Dr. Choi sought legal counsel. The rapist's mother visited the hospital daily, cursing her as a murderer, spitting in her face, and threatening criminal charges. Yet Dr. Choi stood firm. Refusing treatment had been justified. The rapist, after his release, had attempted to kidnap another victim. Though unsuccessful, it proved he had no remorse. Her husband added that the rapist, fearing rearrest, had been fleeing the country by plane when he suffered a fatal attack. After reviewing the case, Seok-hoon asked Dr. Choi only one question: "Did you intentionally kill the rapist?" Dr. Choi denied the accusation. The team held a meeting to discuss the case. Hyo-min pointed out that, given Dr. Choi's statement 5 years prior, the prosecution was highly likely to charge her with murder. They needed to submit a legal brief before formal charges were filed to prevent the accusation. Seok-hoon stressed they had to prove no direct causal link existed between the emergency treatment and the death outcome. They needed as many hospital opinions as possible. Hyo-min met with the prosecutor handling the case, explaining they would submit a detailed brief and requesting the prosecutor review it before deciding on charges. The prosecutor revealed the autopsy results would be available soon. The rapist's cause of death was aortic dissection, compounded by an underlying hereditary disease that caused life-threatening complications. He was doomed either way. The genetic condition required a review of family medical history. Hyo-min asked if the prosecutor had obtained relevant records. If not, they would need a court order to access them, though insurers and hospitals often refused. Back at the law firm, Hyo-min struggled with the complex medical documents. To expedite the process, she enlisted her doctor friend for help. The family records showed the rapist's uncle had died of aortic rupture in his 40s, and his grandmother from a similar condition. Her friend analyzed that both cases indicated vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a genetic disorder. After an all-night search, Hyo-min found a medical paper linking the syndrome to aortic dissection, proving the rapist's death resulted from hereditary complications. She compiled the findings for Seok-hoon, emphasizing the syndrome's lethality and aortic dissection's high mortality rate. The goal was to establish the rapist's death was due to his underlying condition, not the treatment. Dr. Choi had neither diagnostic equipment nor sufficient time to assess the rapist's condition on the plane. In the limited minutes available, no doctor could determine the man's family medical history. If an emergency medical expert could provide a statement confirming that Dr. Choi's actions were the best judgment possible in such a constrained environment, it would increase the likelihood of acquittal. With Seok-hoon's approval, Hyo-min submitted the legal brief to the prosecutor. Based on the autopsy results and the brief, the prosecutor determined there was no direct causal link between the emergency treatment and the death outcome. The case was dismissed without charges. Dr. Choi bore no responsibility for the incident. A woman attacked her enemy, walking alone at night, knocked him unconscious, and fled in a panic. While driving, she bent down to pick up something she had dropped, but accidentally hit a pedestrian. When she stopped to check, she found the man lying in front of her car was the same enemy she had just attacked. Young-mi was arrested on suspicion of murder. During interrogation, she claimed Hyo-min was her lawyer and refused to cooperate unless her lawyer was present. Hyo-min, confused by the police call, had no recollection of knowing Young-mi. To clarify the situation, Hyo-min went to the police station to meet Young-mi. Young-mi coldly reminded her that she had a responsibility for Young-mi's situation and thus must defend her. Even after meeting Young-mi, Hyo-min couldn't recall any prior connection. She hesitated about whether to take the case. Hyo-min received another call from the police. Upon arriving at the station, she learned that Young-mi had been waking up from nightmares every night, screaming in terror. Doctors diagnosed her with post-traumatic stress disorder. Hyo-min met with Young-mi again. This time, Young-mi revealed she had been the top student in her middle school for 3 years and excelled in high school until dropping out in her second year due to bullying. The victim she had accidentally killed was the ringleader of her tormentors. After quitting school, she attempted to pass the college entrance exam, but the trauma of bullying consumed her. She lived in constant fear and pain, taking psychiatric medication that left her sluggish and unable to study. Kang Hyo-min sympathized with Young-mi's ordeal, but still didn't understand why Young-mi blamed her. She pressed whether they had met before, but Young-mi ended the meeting without answering. Kang Hyo-min agreed to take the case as Young-mi's lawyer. Back at the firm, she was attacked by the victim's mother, only to be shielded by Seok-hoon. The mother accused Kang Hyo-min of defending a murderer. In that moment, Kang Hyo-min recalled seeing the woman years ago talking to her mother. She also remembered witnessing a girl being bullied. That girl was Young-mi. Remembering Young-mi's original name, So-yoon, Kang Hyo-min rushed to confront her mother, calling her a selfish hypocrite. She then sought out Young-mi, apologizing for failing to help her. Young-mi retorted that silent bystanders were as guilty as the bullies. People must pay for their inaction. She demanded Kang Hyo-min fight for her acquittal. Kang Hyo-min later explained everything to Seok-hoon. Years ago, her mother had nearly hit a girl crossing the street. Though the girl said she was fine and left, her mother noticed a phone she had dropped, but the girl was already gone. At that moment, her phone buzzed with group chat notifications. The messages contained photos and videos of Young-mi being bullied, and here Clay, and the girl she had just seen was the ringleader of the tormentors. Kang Hyo-min's mother was furious. She immediately summoned the girl's mother to their home, demanding a school committee meeting to implement protection measures for Young-mi, expel all involved bullies, and pursue both criminal charges and civil compensation. To everyone's shock, the girl's mother showed no fear. Instead, she threatened Kang Hyo-min's mother, boasting that her husband was the school board chairman. Kang Hyo-min watched her mother back down in weakness. She never imagined Young-mi's suffering would continue years later. Perhaps fate had destined her to atone for their family's failure as bystanders. Kang Hyo-min took charge of the case, insisting on handling the oral defense herself. During the first trial, she argued Young-mi's innocence. The initial rock throwing constituted assault, but didn't directly cause death, while the fatal car collision was an unforeseeable accident without criminal intent. The prosecution remained unconvinced, maintaining Young-mi had planned the attack from the start. They charged her with attempted murder, manslaughter, and intentional assault. After the trial, Kang Hyo-min and her team searched for new evidence. Just as she hit a dead end, her mother sent crucial documents, NEI, records of the victim Kang Hyo-min's mother had almost hit years earlier. Some habits never change, her mother reminded her, urging her to investigate this trail. The second trial began. Kang Hyo-min pointed out in court that the victim had a habit of jaywalking. 3 months before his death, he was hit by a car while crossing illegally and received outpatient treatment. He had 12 traffic violations in the past 3 years. The spot where Young-mi struck the victim with a rock was near a bar the victim frequented. The bar's parking lot was across the street. The accident occurred on a 6-lane highway, where pedestrian crossings were extremely dangerous. Yet the victim had visited the bar 34 times in the past 6 months, crossing the same way each time. The autopsy showed the rock blows caused only non-fatal concussions. The actual cause of death was cardiac rupture from the vehicle impact. The prosecution couldn't refute Kang Hyo-min's arguments, reducing the charge from murder to 25 years in prison. In her final statement, Kang Hyo-min said Young-mi had been bullied, and she herself was a cold bystander to that incident. With the judge's approval, Young-mi played videos and photos from 12 years ago of her being bullied. Kang Hyo-min's mother had kept the bully's phone all these years, only handing it over yesterday as evidence. Next, Kang Hyo-min showed pre-bullying footage of Young-mi, a bright, optimistic girl, top student full of hope for the future. If none of this had happened, Kang Hyo-min argued, Young-mi wouldn't be here as a defendant. She'd be contributing to society, maybe even standing where I am, or beside you, as a lawyer. Young-mi should pay for her actions, Kang Hyo-min said, but if this ended only in punishment, they'd kill another life. She submitted a petition signed by 84 bystanders, including herself, pleading for Young-mi's chance at a fresh start. The judge adopted Kang Hyo-min's defense and delivered the final verdict, 2 years in prison. Young-mi looked at Kang Hyo-min deeply, a gaze full of endless gratitude. Justice, though late, had finally come. A man came to the law firm for help. Before stating his request, he claimed to have long admired Seok-hoon's reputation. He took a photo with Seok-hoon. Then, he talked about how the service center employee violated his privacy. He showed the leaked video to Seok-hoon. Seok-hoon and Hyo-min couldn't bear to look and angrily closed the laptop. The video showed the man brutally abusing his pet. Seok-hoon told the abuser that animal cruelty is a criminal offense. The employee's report to the police was a legitimate act to protect public interests. The man arrogantly argued it was his private life. The video was personal information. The employee leaking it to the police was illegal. Seok-hoon emphasized again, personal privacy is protected by law, but criminal behavior is another matter. The employee did nothing wrong. They would never take this case. After the man left, Seok-hoon asked his assistant to submit a petition to the prosecution, demanding strict punishment. He also contacted animal protection groups for a public interest report. They prepared for a civil lawsuit. They planned to impose financial pressure through compensation. Finally, they would initiate procedures to restrict his access to animal protection agencies. Seok-hoon believed repeated animal abuse was a sign of psychological disorder. This person might have harmed others. He asked Hyo-min to investigate if there were unresolved cases nearby, especially involving homeless or vulnerable elderly victims. After handling official matters, Seok-hoon discussed personal affairs with his assistant. It turned out, his ex-wife and her current husband wanted to immigrate to Singapore. They planned to take their co-owned dog Hashi with them. For Seok-hoon, Hashi was like his child. He couldn't accept separation. He asked the assistant to find a lawyer specializing in pet custody cases. He wanted to file for an injunction. The assistant directly took the task. No one understood Seok-hoon's situation better than her. She would do her best to keep Hashi. Hyo-min learned about Seok-hoon's custody battle for Hashi. She asked the assistant to help. The assistant said her unilateral agreement didn't count. She needed Seok-hoon's permission. After the meal, Hyo-min returned to the company. While taking the elevator, the man suddenly barged in. She was too afraid to speak, fearing he might do something crazy. Fortunately, Seok-hoon opened the elevator on the next floor. Seeing the man, he rushed in and subdued him immediately. He also ordered security to blacklist the man, banning him from entering the law firm ever again. Hyo-min applied to join the case for Hashi's custody. She believed the benefit of being a lawyer was helping each other with cases, accumulating happiness through mutual support. Seeing Seok-hoon with Hashi, she wanted to help even more. This reason left Seok-hoon with no choice but to agree, allowing her to team up with the assistant for the lawsuit. While working overtime, she called her mother but got no answer. Worried, she rushed home, only to find her usually strong mother crying helplessly. It turned out that before leaving, Hyo-min's father had taken her mother to a pet shop to buy a cat for companionship. The staff introduced various pedigreed cats, but Hyo-min's mother was only drawn to a frail, sickly kitten. The staff explained it was a stray cat, deaf, and unable to meow. Instantly, Hyo-min's mother recalled Hyo-min and her older sister as children. Once, when she accidentally broke a plate, Hyo-min cried from the noise, while her sister remained expressionless, unaffected. That was the day she realized her sister was deaf. The silent kitten reminded her too much of her sister in childhood. She felt distressed, but, after much deliberation, returned to the pet shop and bought the cat. She cared for the kitten meticulously, never leaving its side. However, after vaccination, the kitten suffered side effects, refusing food or water, listless, helpless. She burst into tears. Hyo-min, understanding the situation, called a friend skilled in pet care and entrusted the kitten to her. Then, she helped her mother to bed and lay beside her. In her emotional state, her mother slightly opened up. After discovering her sister's deafness, she had focused all her attention on her, overprotecting her to the point of stunting her development. Meanwhile, her neglect led to Hyo-min falling down the stairs, fracturing her hands and feet. She blamed herself for being a bad mother, failing to care for either child. Hyo-min comforted her, saying both she and her sister had grown up well. There was no need to dwell on the past, only to look forward. The next day, Seok-hoon's ex-husband came to the law firm to fight for Hashi's custody. Hyo-min refuted him with solid arguments. Hashi is joint property of Seok-hoon and his ex-wife. Taking Hashi abroad without Seok-hoon's consent seriously violates his custody rights. If no agreement is reached, they will apply for an injunction to prevent Hashi from leaving. The ex-husband couldn't counter Hyo-min and the assistant, sitting speechless in his seat. When Hyo-min learned Seok-hoon was going to the pet shop to pick up Hashi, she insisted on joining. She bought Hashi toys and snacks, including a GPS collar to track its location. She thoughtfully linked the collar to Seok-hoon's phone. Unexpectedly, the man who had abused animals arrived at the pet shop before them. He claimed to be Seok-hoon's cousin, sent to collect Hashi. When the staff hesitated, he showed a photo with Seok-hoon as proof. The staff believed him and handed over Hashi. By the time Seok-hoon and Hyo-min arrived, they found Hashi already taken. As they anxiously searched, the man sent a video of him mistreating Hashi, taunting that he had the dog. Recalling the man's address from her investigation, Hyo-min immediately took Seok-hoon there. They tracked him down. The man demanded Seok-hoon take his case in exchange for Hashi. Hyo-min stepped in to negotiate. Trust between clients and lawyers is essential. Coercion only backfires. If Hashi is returned, Seok-hoon will certainly take the case. Seok-hoon also promised to do his best. Only then did the man return Hashi, leaning in to warn him to behave. Seok-hoon and Hyo-min took Hashi to the pet hospital. The checkup revealed multiple fractures and signs of trauma, requiring proper rest. Unable to contain his anger, Seok-hoon stormed out. Turns out, when the man threatened him earlier, Seok-hoon had secretly planted the GPS tracker in his bag. Tracking the signal, he found the man abusing stray cats again. He immediately launched into a furious attack, pummeling the cruel man senseless. Police officers in a nearby car waited until Seok-hoon had vented his rage before stepping in to arrest the man. They informed him an innocent elderly victim had been beaten nearly to death, warning that this crime would not be tolerated. After dealing with the man, Seok-hoon went to his ex-wife's place, insisting he'd collect Hashi the next day. She resented his stubbornness, while he still held a grudge over her abortion years ago, calling her heartless. Finally, she revealed the truth. During the procedure, she'd hesitated at first, wanting to keep the baby, but tests showed the child had congenital defects. She believed sparing the child from a suffering life was the kinder choice. Telling Seok-hoon would only cause him pain, no matter what she decided. After the abortion, she'd planned to confess, but Seok-hoon's avoidance had gradually frozen her heart. Seok-hoon had thought his silence then was the best way to avoid resentment. Never did he expect the truth to be this brutal. The weight of the revelation crushed him, so he drowned his sorrows alone at a bar. Hyo-min, learning of his whereabouts, rushed to the bar. She tenderly treated his wounds. Seok-hoon lifted his drunken head and stared at her intently. When Seok-hoon sobered up the next day, his ex-wife suddenly appeared. She agreed to let him keep Hashi but set one condition. He must find a roommate or a spouse to co-raise the dog with her. To meet this demand, Seok-hoon signed up for a dating site, hoping it would match him with a life partner. Meanwhile, a Mrs. Park came to the law firm for help. She told Hyo-min that both she and her husband came from divorced families, never experiencing the happiness of parental love. Neither believed in love. They met on a US dating website, got married after mutual understanding, and signed an agreement in advance. Mrs. Park conceived through IVF, and they co-raised the child, maintaining a sexless, loveless marriage based solely on duty while allowing each other freedom in relationships. Years passed, the child grew up, and they perfectly upheld the agreement, preserving the marriage and family. But recently, when Mrs. Park's husband saw her hugging another man intimately, he felt jealousy and realized he loved her. He wanted a genuine, loving marriage. If she refused, he would divorce to end this loveless relationship. Mrs. Park came to the firm, accusing her husband of violating the co-parenting agreement. Hyo-min explained that while the US contract was valid there, in Korea, such agreements violated public order and morals. Courts would likely nullify them, as sex and emotion are seen as essential to marriage. Though Mrs. Park understood, she insisted on her request. Her husband's divorce proposal held no interest for her, and she wanted to continue as per the original agreement, asking Hyo-min to reject the divorce. Hyo-min shared the case with Seok-hoon and colleagues. A love-obsessed assistant, seeing lawyer Shu's romance, accused Mrs. Park of undermining sacred marriage. Shu divorced herself, defended the choice. Lifelong monogamy is unrealistic. Duty-bound marriages might last longer. Seok-hoon, hurt in past relationships, agreed love changes, but marriage is a lifelong contract. He understood skipping romance for family building. Hyo-min applied to take the case, arguing that public order and morals should be flexibly interpreted based on different eras and social theories. Nowadays, people should view marriage forms with diverse perspectives. This was a meaningful discussion. On their way home, both Hyo-min and Seok-hoon were slightly drunk. In their daze, their hands accidentally touched. Hyo-min felt her heart flutter, unable to tear her gaze away from Seok-hoon's face. At the first court hearing, the lawyer representing Mrs. Park's husband happened to be Hyo-min's ex-boyfriend. Hyo-min defended that from the start of their marriage, Mr. and Mrs. Park had clearly excluded emotional and physical relations, allowing each other to date while only sharing child-rearing responsibilities. This agreement fell under the civil law principle of prior consent. Her ex-boyfriend countered that the agreement fundamentally denied marriage's essence, violating public order. If courts tolerated such contracts, It would cause severe chaos in the civil marriage system. After the trial, the ex-boyfriend confessed to Hyo-min. He went on weekly blind dates, sometimes 3 times a week, but regretted hurting her every time. Now he realized loveless marriages couldn't last, begging for another chance. Hyo-min bluntly replied, regardless of love, his past behavior was immoral. She wouldn't date, let alone marry, an immoral person. Hearing their conversation, Seok-hoon was pleased Hyo-min had her own judgment and principles. After work, Seok-hoon arrived at the agreed restaurant to meet his blind date. He hoped the dating site would match him with a divorced woman of similar age, allowing them to marry without romance. But he never expected his date to be Hyo-min. He immediately complained about the unsuitable match, only to be told that AI had deeply analyzed his criteria and determined Hyo-min was the most compatible. Hyo-min persuaded him to stay and eat. After the meal, she suggested a walk, and they continued discussing love and marriage. Seok-hoon believed that loving someone didn't guarantee a successful marriage, nor did marriage ensure lasting love. His ideal was a lifelong partner who shared his direction in life. Yet his own marriage had been a process of love fading away, leaving him feeling like a failure at times. Hyo-min reassured him. His marriage wasn't a failure, but a completed work. Now it was time to begin a new journey and create something new. Her words lifted his gloom. Then Hyo-min twisted her ankle slightly, her heel loosening. Seok-hoon suggested stopping the walk and going home immediately, but she insisted on walking a bit longer. Reluctantly, he offered his arm for her to lean on. The next day, the case went to trial. After hearing all arguments, the judge ruled in favor of divorce. As an experienced divorce judge, he added, love was never perfect, and marriage was about enduring that imperfection. The process might be difficult or even fail, which is why some chose divorce. But don't let fear of divorce stop you from trying love, he warned, or you might miss happiness. Mrs. Park thanked Hyo-min for her help. Though she lost the case, she had learned much. As she left, she and her husband went together to pick up their child. The end of a marriage didn't sever all bonds. New feelings might grow through continued connection. Hyo-min and Seok-hoon both felt relieved. Hyo-min admitted she hadn't known what love was until handling these cases, where she saw love in all its forms, learning to understand and heal it. She thanked Seok-hoon for his guidance,